Since 1974, this annual car show has presented the latest and greatest that the automotive industry has to offer, giving guests a sneak peek at incredible concept cars, vehicles that are coming to the market, and rare classics that are hard to see anywhere else. The automotive show takes up both the north and the south buildings of the Metro Toronto Convention Centre. The show covers 650,000 square feet, making it the largest consumer show in Canada. This year, there's 43 automotive brands and 14 vehicles making their Canadian debut. Starting here in the south building, you'll find the registration for BMW and Mini test drives here on level 500. Below that, on level 600, you'll find the BMW exhibit space. A highlight for BMW this year is the M5 Touring station wagon. If only Clark Griswold could see this. With over 700 horsepower, it does 0 to 100 kilometers an hour in 3.6 seconds.
This is a damn fine automobile.
You could cut your drive to Wally World in half in this beast. On level 700 is where you'll find Castrol Alley. Here you'll find a McLaren on display with its matching Lego version set up back to back. Lego McLaren is made up of 342,000 Lego pieces, and it weighs 2,690 pounds. There's also a Lego shop and Lego play area here. On the other side of the hall is an F1 Lego partnership, which has a display showing the available Lego sets. Further along is the mini exhibit and the Red Bull fan zone, where they have an interactive experience, which I think lets you attempt to attach the wheels to an F1 car. There's also racing simulators here. At the back is the Audi exhibit, which is a show in itself. The exhibit is called Audi House and was designed by famed Canadian architect Omar Gandhi. Audi hasn't been at the show in a few years, but they're coming out strong in 2025 with some gorgeous cars and the all-new RS3. Around the corner is the Performance Pavilion, which has a really interesting exhibit for the Canadian Motorsports Hall of Fame. Moving back to where the Lego McLaren is, there's a small food hall which basically just serves up pizza and hot dogs. A lot of the food options weren't available on Media Day, but you'll be able to find food throughout the entire show. If you continue down one more set of escalators, you'll reach level 800. Here is where you'll find the bulk of the exhibitors in the south building. At the Ford exhibit, you'll find a huge lineup of vehicles, including the Ford Super Duty, which will be built in Oakville, Ontario next year. Next to Ford is a monster truck exhibit featuring Bigfoot, and you can read about its interesting 50-year history. And right next to that is a Hot Wheels collector meetup area, but you don't have to be a collector to peruse the displays. Next up is the Ajax Cars of the Year from each category. After the Ajax display is Volvo. Moving on, like Ford, the Chevy display is huge, but be sure to check out these Canadian-built vehicles. The Chevy Silverado is built in Oshawa, Ontario, and the all-electric Chevy Bright Drop is built in Ingersoll, Ontario. This is a vehicle that's sold to some of the big couriers in the United States. Next up is Buick, and right next to that is Tesla, and we'll just move on.
You think you hate it now? Well, wait till you drive it.
Now we're back to some decent cars. Check out the Lexus NX and RX, which are built in Cambridge, Ontario. I especially like this new Lexus SUV, which is, I think, the luxury version of the Land Cruiser from the looks of it. Next up is Toyota. The RAV4 is one of the most popular cars on the road, and they're made in Cambridge and Woodstock, Ontario. I have to say the Toyota trucks are looking amazing these days, with the new Land Cruiser and the all-new 4Runner, which are both on display here. Polestar is next up, and they have a couple of electric vehicles that will excite very few people, I think. But they are electric, so that's a plus. In the back behind the Polestar and OPP exhibits is the TD EV Test Track. You'll get an opportunity to test drive a wide range of electric vehicles. Cadillac has recently come out with a few EVs, and you'll be able to see the Vistique, which is being dubbed the Mini Escalade, and the Optique is also on display, and it's the more attainable EV in the Cadillac lineup. They could work on the names though. Lincoln is in this area too, but nothing too exciting happening here. I've heard I think it's called a Nautilus, I've heard those are nice. To get to the north building from the south building, you'll need to head back up the escalators to the top level of the south building. Then head across the pedestrian bridge. Here in the north building, there are 3 levels, but we'll start here on the main show floor on level 300. My first stop in the north building was Camp Jeep, where you get taken around the indoor course by a professional driver. I was actually surprised at how incredibly rough the ride was, to be honest. Jeep is owned by parent company Stellantis. Some of the other brands and vehicles under its umbrella are made here in Canada, including the Chrysler Pacifica and Dodge Charger, which are made in Windsor, Ontario. There's also a plant in Brampton that makes the Dodge Challenger, the Charger, the Chrysler 300, and the Jeep Compass. Right next to Camp Jeep is Kia. A highlight here is the all-new EV5, which is meant to be an entry into the electric market for those that don't want to fork out for a Tesla or a Rivian. Next to Kia is Alfa Romeo, which haven't evolved at all since they first landed in Canada a few years ago. And then just next to Alfa Romeo is a brand I have never heard of called Grenadier. When I first saw them, I thought they were Mercedes G-Wagons until I noticed the badges were different. And they also kind of resemble like an old Toyota Land Cruiser. They kind of have like a mix of both. Whatever they are, I like them, and I love seeing these more like rugged and boxy SUVs making a comeback. A highlight this year from Subaru is the 2025 Forester e-Boxer Hybrid, which features all-time all-wheel drive. A major highlight this year is the return of Mercedes-Benz, which has been absent for the last 5 years. And at their exhibit for 2025, they have the all-new fully electric G-Wagon. The Mercedes lineup also includes AMG and Maybach. Next up is Nissan, which is showcasing 2 concept vehicles as part of their 60th anniversary here in Canada. The luxury arm of Nissan is right next door. Infinity's display is looking a little dull, but the vehicles are nice. Moving on past Infinity is Ferrari of Ontario and Grand Touring automobiles. Here you'll find Bentleys, Lambos, Bugatti, Rolls, and Jaguars. One of the cars I was particularly impressed with in terms of its styling and design was the new Maseratis. Like Ferrari, they have just an elegance and refinement, and the interiors are incredible. Oh, and McLaren's here too. I don't see a lot of change from the previous few years with McLaren. Next to the exotic cars is another new electric car manufacturer called Lucid. They only have a couple of vehicles, but they are very cool looking cars. They have the Air and Gravity, both making their Canadian AutoShow debut. Not only are they nice to look at, they have some serious performance too, with the Gravity reaching 720 kilometers per charge and doing 0 to 100 kilometers an hour in 3.5 seconds. VinFast is the last automaker to see on this level. They are a Vietnamese manufacturer which began operations in 2017. They make electric cars. I don't know much about them other than that. After VinFast, head down the escalators to level 200. There's an outdoor test track here, but it was closed due to the weather when I was there. Continue down one more set of escalators to level 100. On this level, you'll find a Mattel Hot Wheels store, and across the hall is Auto Exotica, which features a bunch of different groups and clubs with vehicles on display. A highlight here for me was the 2022 Lamborghini Countach. There was only 112 of these ever built. There's some beautiful classic cars here as well, thanks to Cobble Beach Classics. Cadillac also has some spectacular concept cars on display. So that wraps up the tour of the 2025 Canadian International Auto Show. And a special thanks to the Canadian International Auto Show for hosting this media day and giving me an opportunity to showcase a small piece of our Canadian automotive industry. Thanks so much for watching. See you next time.